Hello, I am back with yet another new range of products from our friends over at Sonoff. And these have come at the perfect time because they might just save my lungs. Hi, I'm James and I've been building out my smart home for years, with products from just about every manufacturer out there, figuring out what works and what doesn't. Now, I've been using my new 3D printer right here next to me in my tiny little study for about a month now. And in that time, I've grown increasingly concerned about the long-term health implications of melting plastic in a confined space and breathing it in. But it's reached a fever pitch recently after I pulled in my mini-split AC for the winter, so now the window is closed most of the time. So I bought myself a little plug-in extractor fan to try and keep the room well ventilated. But how will I decide when to run it? That's where these come in. The new Sonoff AirGuard Series, the PM2.5, 10, CO2 and TH. As many of you might have guessed from the names, they are all designed to help you monitor your air quality. So to begin with, let's start off with the simplest one, the TH. This one monitors the temperature and humidity. But there's a twist to this one, because it's primarily a Zigbee sensor, but it can also be used directly via Bluetooth instead, though it is slightly more limited in this mode. As you can see, it has a nice high-res 3.6-inch LCD screen, which will display all the relevant metrics, very similar to their existing SNZB02 series, but crucially with higher data resolution, and min and max and extreme values tracked daily, weekly, monthly, or even 6th monthly. You can also track the dew point and VPD, which can help identify when you have the right conditions for mold growth. You can also track the temperature from 2 different locations on a single screen, which would be perfect for monitoring the humidity inside and outside of my newly printed AMS enclosure on my 3D printer. But perhaps my favourite low-key improvement over the SNZB02 series is that this sensor runs off AAA batteries, so you can easily run it from rechargeable batteries. Hallelujah. Now, since the other 2 sensors both use Matter over Wi-Fi, they need to be connected to power via USB-C, which means you never have to worry about batteries at all, which is a huge win in my opinion. But with that, let's move on to the CO2 version. This one also monitors temperature and humidity, and unsurprisingly, the CO2 levels. When it comes to the health of your home environment, I think CO2 levels are often drastically overlooked. In a small room like this, with no ventilation, you would be shocked how quickly the levels can build up. Health studies show that CO2 levels from just over 1,000 parts per million can start to affect your cognitive ability, and it's nearly 1,200 in here right now. And in my little study, it can maintain 1,300 ppm with me sat in here, even with the door wide open. But thanks to the AirGuard CO2, I know that it can now spike to over 3,000 within about an hour of me sitting in here with the door and window both closed. It is no wonder that when we were all working from home during COVID, our productivity was often toast by midday. At least that's my excuse. But with that, let's move on to the PM2.5 10 model. This once again monitors your temperature and humidity, and it will also report the levels of different sized particles in the air, namely PM2.5 and PM10. And it's this one that I'm most glad to have in here right now, because these tiny particles can come from a variety of sources, from pollen to production material. And depending on what that particle is, the effects can range from minor hay fever inconvenience to being really damaging to your long-term health, especially if you suffer from asthma like I do, or other respiratory conditions. So, since receiving this sensor, I've been able to track the PM2.5 and 10 particle levels in my study to see whether there's anything coming off of my printer that I should be worried about. And luckily the answer seems to be not really so far, though there does seem to be a slight increase in both when printing certain filaments. But regardless, with these sensors in the mix, I can take steps to keep things at a safe level, which I've done so far by reacting to their built-in alarms and opening a door or window as needed. Interesting. When I am printing with a Bamboo Labs Pet G over here. Let's open the door. There we go, getting a little bit better now. But since it's me and I quickly get tired of doing things manually, I decided to buy myself that neat little extractor fan that I mentioned earlier, and automate it with a Sonoff iPlug to keep my air quality as good as it can be by every metric. Now, you could set up a stat to automatically manage a particular metric using a switch and a sensor in Home Assistant, like a hygrostat, to modulate the set humidity level. But since I'm concerned about humidity, CO2, and the PM density levels, I created an automation which checks all three at once to decide whether or not the extractor fan should be on or not. And it's actually quite simple to do. First of all, simply create an automation with 2 triggers per metric. One when it goes over the metric and one for when it dips below. Worth noting here that you could just say whenever it changes, but that would leave this automation running and re-evaluating every time any of the numbers changes. So I prefer to make it check when it goes above or below. Then in the actions you can put an if statement which says if the humidity is above the set threshold, or if the CO2 is, or either of the PM density levels are above, turn the switch on. Otherwise, turn it off. This way, if any of those metrics are out of whack, then that extractor fan will be on, doing its best to bring in fresh air. Otherwise, it'll turn off to save energy. And that's it. The new Sonoff AirGuard range. The perfect Christmas gift from Sonoff to keep me breathing easy. And if you'd like to pick one up for one of your loved ones or for yourself, the links will as always be on my website, homeiswherethesmartis.uk. And if you do, that will make me a small commission at no cost to you, so thank you for supporting the channel. Now, quickly here, I mentioned earlier that I use the Sonoff iPlug to automate my extractor fan, and I wanted to quickly announce here the winners of the giveaway I did a few videos ago, and they are Rich P from TikTok and the Hoodie Guy CKD from YouTube. Congratulations guys, thank you so much for watching, subscribing and commenting. I will be DMing you and commenting back to get the details to ship these, hopefully in time for Christmas. So I hope you enjoy them and have a great Christmas. And thank you again so much for watching. I hope you and your family have a happy and healthy Christmas. And as always, remember, home is where the smart is.